Good day to you. Good day to you. Today I want to discuss an important principle of how much to stretch, how much to love. Also, I want to examine this popular concept of dopamine as a happy hormone. I am Dr. Lalit Mendis, Director, Colombo Empathic Learning Center. I was also the founding head of pharmacology in a state medical faculty. So, the important thing to know is we operate in a default mode network of thought that every hour we start doing something, and that is our default mode network of thought and action. So for that we begin with dopamine, and we also then work for 40 minutes. Dopamine works for salience, do work to the point. So this is the diagram here, two curves are there. Dopamine works to salience, focus, do, initiation, navigation, successful in conclusion. That's what dopamine is. So if you don't get a successful in conclusion for whatever result, you begin to wander and you're not happy about it. So dopamine works for successful in conclusion. Then the reward motive begins with serotonin. Serotonin is called the happy hormone. It's a little more than that. It's the neurochemical transmitter that makes you to know it was well done, how much well done. Then after 45 minutes of dopamine working, and then dopamine has to come down, then serotonin takes over in the prefrontal cortex, in the thinking, conceptualizing, decision-making tracks that keep record of how did I do it, initiation, navigation, successful in conclusion, the sense of success, well done, how much well done, what is the improvement necessary. Then the work of serotonin begins in the tracks. Of course, man is not neurochemistry only. He also has a spirit, he has a conscience, he has a heart of affection, and he has emotions, and all that is part of man. So as far as the conceptualizing decision-making track in the prefrontal cortex is concerned, dopamine works and serotonin takes over for reward assessment. And that's for next hour is good motivation, reward motivation for forward moving. Then we have oxytocin when we converse with each other, hug each other, and the love language. Then we like to be with each other. That's what oxytocin does. Oxytocin is also a hormone because it is secreted by the pituitary as well as a neurochemical transmitter. Then we have GABA, GABA-aminobutyric acid, which gives empathy. For instance, when you are about to sleep or kids are about to sleep, that sense of how did I do it, and that nice feeling. You say he's like a baby when he sleeps, that kind of thing. And that's the time to get close to kids and say, how was your day, darling? Then at that time, they will want to share with you something that did not go right. It's empathy time. So every family time is oxytocin time for happy communication. GABA is empathy time, to feel through with another. Dopamine certainly contributes to happiness to this extent that it keeps ticking, so to say. These are neurochemical transmitters that act on the receptor that is meant for them, keep ticking to get you to do it to a good end, where you do the initiation, navigation, successful conclusion. And we know if we don't come to a successful conclusion, finish the thing properly, we are not happy. So to that extent, dopamine helps us to do it to an end. But the real the happiness, reward motive comes from serotonin. So you have to be careful when you say dopamine is happy hormone, because when kids are into digital addiction or any other addiction, the dopamine that you started on, which should do its curve of navigation and come down, for serotonin to conclude the initiation, navigation, successful and conclusion, reward motive. The reward motive should come. Having done your work, you have a check back. It becomes important for curriculum, studying, work, as well as for character. Because what you have done, you have a check back on, did I do it right? Did I do it well? That kind of discussion is encouraged by the serotonin neurochemical terminals or receptors. Of course, as I told you at the beginning, man is not only neurochemistry, man is spirit, heart of affection, spirit that knows God and is accountable to God, and the hope is there, then the heart of affection, then the conscience, the balance, and then the emotions, the reflector, and we are all of that, and our brain, of course. So, serotonin does the reward motive, oxytocin does the communication happiness, GABA does the empathy. That makes you to understand that was not very nice, that was not empathic. So if you inhibit GABA with a teaspoon of alcohol, so you need to know that every molecule of C2H5OH, ethyl alcohol, will block the molecule of GABA. And GABA, gamma-aminobutyric acid, the one who gives you the feeling of considering others. You know what empathy is. So that's why kids who are very digitized, they are into dyspathy. They are very angry. They say nasty things. So Proverbs chapter 30 describes a generational change. It says there's a generation that will be disowning father and mother. There's a generation whose eyes are very lofty. They're always demanding. There's a generation with sharp words. So this is not a criticism. It's a neurochemical assessment, a moral assessment, a spiritual assessment, that an ancient book in the Bible, Proverbs chapter 30. You can read Proverbs chapter 30, 3-0, and say, how did this old book know all this? Other than that, the old book, the author, who is God who created us, and he saw a generation coming that will move away from parents and do their own thing. Of course, that happened because very young, they were given the screen rather than bonding time, family time, love time, fellowship time, meal times. No, they got the screen to be the nanny. So they went the screen way. That explains the Gen Zs and the Alpha generation, who have now become quite the digital generation. So these are some things about the decision-making process. Then we come to love and stretch. Love gives you ability to stretch more. So when I was studying, I always wanted to study to the ruddy end, that is C.S. Lewis's language, that is know as much as you can know on the subject. But this was based on how well my parents treated me. So I always felt I'm well treated. So I had no problem about love. I was equal to the stretch, So when you find kids who have no father-mother, or there is father-mother abandoning, aggression, abuse, or just neglect, or orphans, though they have a full potential, there is no one to give them love, to stretch them to the potential. So when you are not stretched on the potential, you do this, that, and the other. I call it T-T-A-O, 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 this, that, and other. This can happen in a family that is well provided. Dad is there, mom is there, but if you don't keep kids on the stretch they should be, between the age of 13 and 16, that is roughly the ordinary level GCE years, then what happens is, when they are not on that stretch, they can be stretched for maximum potential. Some kids for maths and science, others for music, others for sports, others for drama, others for crafts, others for art. There are kids who are very good with their fingers. So all these, God has given everyone a field, a subject in which the child will be brilliant. How brilliant? Proverbs 18:16 says, brilliant enough to take it before the king. Like Dick Whittington, who had a cat, when everybody had been eating cats because of a famine, and rats had caused bubonic plague. The king desperately needed a cat in his palace, and Dick Whittington said, I saved my cat. And he took the cat, and the story goes that cat destroyed all the rats in the king's palace, and he was offered the king's daughter for looking after the cat. That's just an extreme example. Every kid by 13, 16 Parents need to identify what the child is going to be brilliant in. God is fair, so that He has given everyone a field of brilliance, differently able, but everyone has got a field of brilliance. Parents work with it, teachers work with it. So my submission is that at GC O level, any student will have a subject on which they can get an A. You get them stretched for GC O level, age 16, then they'll get on to next things they have to do. If they don't get on to that stretch, they will be doing 2x2 course and they'll be saying Sri Lanka is useless, send us somewhere else, and it's a big problem. Also, when young fellows are not stretched on one or two things they should, be it sports, music, drama, art, study, math, science, or whatever languages, when they are not stretched, they do girl chasing, boy chasing, and many other distractions because they did not get stretched in the thing that they should be stretched. So many issues have arisen, beginning with home not bonding. So before results can come between the ages of 14 and 16, you must keep the hope of their spirit that has come from their God's scope from heaven alive and thriving and ticking in their heart, so that they will carry a spirit of excellence to go for the best. Every child has a best that the child can go to. I'm Dr. Lal Mendis, Director, Colombo Empathic Learning Center, and the founding head of pharmacology in the State Medical Faculty. So I'm just making a little discussion on the neurochemistry, the heart-spirit balance, the brain-screen balance, and how you get, as you give them love, they're able to stretch more. Give them love, they're able to stretch more. So each child in his own area of brilliance. Of course, parents may make a mistake in insisting that a kid must do math or science, become an engineer or doctor, so on. But you can recognize verbal processing kids, word processing kids, and the pictorial processing kids. Those kids go for art, imagination, they see, or they are good at photography, they draw stuff, they look at something and they understand differently. Those days it was called right brain ability. Nowadays it's called word processing and pictorial processing children. But teachers have to encounter them and provide for them in the class. Also, there are 7 brain tracks. You send me a WhatsApp to 074-211-5011. Then I can get you a clip on this in a greater detail. So when these 7 brain tracts begin to form and act from the mother's womb. So a child who gets good bonding learns empathic, intuitive. He got good bonding even when he was in the mother's womb, and he feels great about himself. Then next tract is empathic relational. That's about how he relates to others. Then the third track is the language track. Never give a kid the digital screen before the age of 5. I would say, please don't give him at all or her at all till they really need it for study. Don't make it the nanny, because their brain capacity changes. They get jittery. They shift from thinking mode, top-down regulation, to reacting mode, bottom-up regulation. Then we grieve and we complain. So the language track gets all messed up, and kids who come to Empathic Learning Center to see me, 30% come because of language difficulty, because they were given the screen very young. Then phonemes don't form, languages don't form. Normally, under the age of 5, you can learn 2 languages. So you have to decide what those 2 languages are. And screen can't teach you language. They will parrot it like a parrot, and later they have not formed their language. So the language forming ability is very important. Then we have the 4th track, the management mathematical track. It's according to that the child crawls, so many steps, so many crawls, 7, 8, 9, and I get mom and cookies. Not that they are calculating 1, 2, 3, 5, but that's the way their proprioception moves for mathematical management. Then you have the show work tracks, kinesthesia, acoustic and visual, all must develop those tracks. But when the child is on the screen too much, they go hyperactive on the kinesthesia, acoustic and visual. then they can't study, they're all the time jittery, and their dopamine is high and addictive. They move from DA1 physiological receptor to DA2 dopamine addictive receptor. They get onto other addictions, and drug abuse and experiments with drug has the basis in high dopamine addiction because of the digital screen. So I want to end up on this tone that your kid needs your love for more stretch. If the kid is not stretched to their best, with love of course, so I would say 3-to-1 ratio, love, 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 stretch, love, 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 stretch, bonding, 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 stretch, Next step up, step forward. Dad has to do it every day. In reading something, I have 4 such books to read with kids. The first 10 chapters of Genesis, Words of Wisdom, Fish and Loaves, and Rags to Riches. Different stories. I recommend that a dad read it because he gives direction, forward vision. Mother makes it daily safe within the boundaries. But to take the next boundary, next step, dad has to daily interact. That's how it goes. So you're not born brilliant, but you're born with the potential to be brilliant, and both mom and dad have to work with it. I'm Dr. Lalit Mendis. Thank you for listening. We also have a good shepherd who helps every child. He's a great savior. We can introduce our children to listen to the good shepherd's voice early. Then they have an inner guidance, an inner compass that leads them well, so that they don't get into distractions. So thank you for listening. If you want any more clips on reason, spirituality and science, please send me a WhatsApp to 0742 11 5011. If you need a consultation without any cost, you can ask for an appointment regarding a child's learning difficulties or digital problems. You can ask for an appointment from 077 151 2801. Thank you for listening.